He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, welcome to the Marlow Show. It is a really busy news day. We are moving fast-paced stuff happening here because of the Supreme Court ruling at a 6-3 margin, which is great, curbing the court's injunctions that have been really ravaging Trump's administration. And I want to say this flat out, is that it is absolutely anti-democratic to have these judges, these 600 and I think it's 77 U.S. district judges, effectively having a veto over the executive branch. This is blatantly anti-democratic. This is clearly unconstitutional and was never the intention that each one of these district courts could somehow subvert the executive branch. It needed to end. It has ended, or we think it has ended. But I'll tell you that this is going to be an ongoing thing. We don't really know. We're in a bit of uncharted territory because the left has been using these injunctions for so long. You might recall I brought this up in the show in the past, but half of the injunctions that were issued against presidents of the United States were issued against Trump in his first term. So can we look back at some of those, some of the things that were put on hold, not to mention some of these temporary restraining orders that we've seen, and what is the extent of this ruling? So it's definitely something that's going to play out. This is a moving target. This is an ongoing thing, but it's a massive victory. It proves once and for all that these judicial supremacist judges who believe that the executive branch is subservient to the judicial branch, which is entirely illogical and anti-democratic, all of those people have been wrong for the last 6 months. And we just saw stunning scenes from the Supreme Court today. We get a lot of it for you at Breitbart News. But it is, we are absolutely over the moon. We're thrilled. And hopefully this bodes well for what we're going to see in terms of the future, because it feels like we even got Justice Barrett, who has been so flaky, so wishy-washy, has been on my SHIT list for a long time, that she didn't just come in and write the main opinion here in support of the verdict, but she came in with haymakers towards Ketanji Brown Jackson, the left-wing judge. And these things you have to be seen to be believed. But the smackdown of Ketanji Brown Jackson was so intense that people are they're just going viral online. It's basically saying that her entire interpretation of the law is bogus. Let me read from this. Justice Jackson, however, chooses a startling line of attack that is tethered neither to these sources nor, frankly, to any doctrine whatsoever. That's crucial, that she's saying that basically the supporting of these district court judges blocking executive actions by the president unilaterally, where these district court judges are supposed to apply to a district. That's why they're called district courts. They're not supposed to block for the entire nation. That's why they're in a district court. It's not rooted in anything. And that type of language, when you see this stuff pop up in Supreme Court decisions, it's cited in future decisions. It's cited in lower courts. And that really will give a wide berth. The wide scope of this decision is what's most encouraging, is that it shows you that perhaps it could mean a series of wins against the lawfare apparatus and superstructure. Let me read more from Justice Barrett. In her law-declaring vision of the judicial function, a district court's opinion is not just persuasive, but has the legal force of a judgment. Once a single district court deems executive conduct unlawful, it is stated what the law requires. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. Absolutely devastating, right on the money, and just such a welcome change of pace from Justice Barrett. Good on her, good on the whole court, 6-3. Just great news for President Trump. And I'll tell you, these themes are exactly why I felt that it was so important to write Breaking the Law, which you can see it now on my set. There it is in the corner. I've also got it behind me. My forthcoming book, which I announced yesterday on the show. And thanks of all of you who are heading over to your favorite bookseller to pick up a pre-order. Guys, if you support my work, if you believe in what I do and trust that this will be this is something that can help the Republic in a major way. I don't want to be so self-aggrandizing it'll save the Republic, but this is a path forward for us to beat the single biggest threat to Donald Trump and his administration and his agenda and his executive authority as we know it is to take on the lawfare superstructure, to name names, to expose the people who are behind the lawfare against him in the Joe Biden administration and make sure all of them are household names, are called out. Many of them are investigated. Some of them are impeached. Many of them are prosecuted. We need to get the names and we need to get the scalps. And we're not going to do that unless we start making a concerted effort to bring justice for Donald Trump. He's not seen justice yet, and he needs to see justice. But also, this is something that if we drop our guard here, you can bet the lawfare superstructure, the type of people that come up in this book, some of them will be familiar to you, such as Mark Elias and George Soros. You know they're already plotting for the midterm elections. They want to fight back using legal means to slow Trump's agenda, to get momentum for Democrat candidates, and then eventually try to take over the country. And one of the things that you'll learn when you read the book is the importance of staying engaged 24/7. I'll expand on this down the road, but being vigilant 24/7 on politics. We can never drop our guard. The problem happens when we drop our guard. The problem is when we lose our wartime footing and we get too complacent with where we're at. We need to continue to run up the score right now while the Democrats are weak. And I think that them trying to overreach with these justices, this was something that could potentially backfire. And I think we're seeing it. So again, Breaking the Law pre-sale now. And thanks to all of you who have picked it up, and get an extra 10,000 copies for your friends and family members. Helps a lot. And also, you know, the earlier you buy it, the stores get encouraged by this. They put it in the front of the store. It builds momentum. You guys can do the math on this thing. It's very logical. But the earlier you get more momentum, the easier it is to sustain it. So that's the name of the game for me. And you're going to like it. It's a good book. And it's not long, as I noted yesterday. It's my tightest book of any of my books. Very urgent. Most urgent thing that I've written. And it's just fun to wake up in the morning and to not only see my new subject area of expertise be front and center in the news, but with some victories. Another big victory as well with the Supreme Court ruling, obviously, that parents who objected to having LGBTQ books in school are free to not have their kids review those. And this is something that is clear as day to me. Why on earth would you ever have children be compelled to read trans content in a school? Of course, we're just asking for them to opt out. These are not about book bans. These are about allowing your children, particularly Christian conservative children, to be opt out of the trans indoctrination that has made us all more depressed, all more confused, all more anti-science. And we're raising the lamest and least happy, most mentally health adult generation in history. And so we have to look at what's changed. One of the things that'll be front of mind will be the trans stuff. It'll be the nonstop trans conversation, the obsession with people's sexual identity and gender identity, and all at the expense of science and logic, and in the end, love and happiness, which is the goal for all of us. So really bad stuff that this was even a consideration. It makes me kind of fearful for the country that this was a thing that you would have to compel students to consume trans content as minors. And yet that was a possibility, and until today. So Supreme Court super clear on these things. But one thing where they're not clear, you've heard me talk about efforts from the legacy media to stop you from accessing shows like mine. They do it by limiting spectrum that's available to consumers like you to access shows like this. They actually claim it's a national defense issue, which is a bit of a stretch if you think about it. And Trump isn't buying it either, and neither is Senator Ted Cruz. In the big, beautiful bill, Republicans have heard your voice and are providing more spectrum. So what does that mean for you? It can reduce your monthly broadband bill and preserve your ability to watch, listen, and stream the content that you choose, not what's chosen for you by some cable provider. The sale of this spectrum will also generate billions of dollars to reduce our national debt. Don't let the giant cable providers and legacy media continue to filter your information. Tell your senator and member of Congress to work with Senator Ted Cruz and President Donald J. Trump to expand spectrum and end the legacy media monopoly for good. You can learn more at endthecableopoly.org. That's endthecableopoly.org. that I think is important to go back to the injunctions case is they have not settled the birthright citizenship issue. So the birthright citizenship issue itself is a big deal, and it is something that, for me, it's entirely illogical that the location of the woman's vagina at the time the baby comes out indicates whether or not you're a citizen for the rest of your life. That makes zero sense to me. There are many exceptions to people who could be born in the United States and are not citizens, and there are exceptions to people who are born outside of the United States under circumstances who are citizens based off of their parents, based off of whether or not their parents are here to do work, for example. Maybe they're diplomats or something. It doesn't make them a citizen if they have a child here, nor does it not make you a citizen if your parents are American citizens and let's say you're doing work on behalf of, I don't know, the U.S. military. You're born overseas. Should that make you not a citizen? It's totally illogical. Of course, it makes no sense. And it was clearly designed, the normalization of birthright citizenship. The normalization of birthright citizenship was clearly designed in order to try to pad the Democrat voters. The Great Replacement is real. It has been happening. The Democrats improve their majorities by importation of voters. That's how they do it. They get new voters. They can't convince them with their words or with their actions or with their record. They have to import them. So new generations, those are the ones who they believe can default the Democrat, and they have to keep those stocks and stores of people high, and that's why they like a birthright citizenship. And when you do that stuff, remember, we have the huge problem of chain migration as well. Is when a new immigrant comes to the country, they are trying to bring as many family members as they can, and through chain migration, they're able to do so. I think the average is like 2 or 3 people. I've had the data in front of me. I'll bring it back up soon. But if you get a new immigrant, you're likely to get more family members to follow. And that's their plan, to replace American citizens with foreigners and to completely remake the country. And when you see the stuff in New York, which, I'm looking at in a very amused way with our friend Zoran, but it is obviously immigration is a huge part of that. It's the changing of the demographics from people with roots and origins in America to people who just got here. Was Zoran, he was born in Uganda, I think, and he's only been here for 6 years. Is that his deal? Like, it's absolutely wild if that's what's going on. And it's not to say that it should be illegal or something, but the point is that how are we doing? How is this going? This experimentation with watering down what it means to be American. And it is it's one of these things. Yeah, born in Kampala, Uganda. And I think he's been in the country for like 6 years. Now he could be mayor of New York. Of course, it's a farce. Of course, it's absurd. But New York deserves it. Of course, they do. I mean, they put up Cuomo, like the guy after all the nursing home stuff. Ridiculous. I got some clips of Zoran. This is what is mostly visual. This is him yelling at, what is this? The Homeland Security. It's he's very activated. Let's check this out. He's yelling at Tom Homan. Do you believe in the First Amendment? It's disturbing. It's very disturbing. So it's look, he's got my full endorsement, but he is a disturbing individual. Have you guys ever done that? The grown man impulse. I'm going to go yell for just pure public masturbatory reasons at the Homeland Security Secretary. I don't have that one. So you got to tell me where that might come from. But I've seen it. I went to Berkeley. I mean, there are a lot of people on campus doing that, showing up at my events, yelling at me, calling me racist, all this stuff just because I don't like terrorism or something. Here he is on the stump. This is unbelievable. Here's some more Zoran for you.
Oftentimes, we've even found as legislators, when we go into these courts, the term violent crime is even used when people are stealing packages. Violent crime is even used when people are accused of burglary and there happens to be a housing unit in that same dwelling. So violence is an artificial construction. And we have to be very clear that what is happening here with these district attorneys, that is violence. That is violence of the highest degree.
I mean, you have to admire the brazenness of it. It's definitely outside the box. Violence is an artificial construction. So are you saying that does it go two ways? Like if I were to sock someone in the mouth, and they accuse me of violence, could I say, well, that's an artificial construction. It's not real. The point of what the left does with language when they manipulate language is they make certain things not mean anything. For example, they just did this with impeachment. with where they took something that was kind of sacred in America. We only do it under really bad circumstances when people are busted lying to cover important stuff up. That was one of the arguments on Bill Clinton's behalf, that it was too cheap of an issue to impeach him for lying about the sex with Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office. So even that wasn't enough for certain people to hit that threshold. Of course, it was impeachable, sure, but it's also, a lot of people were arguing from the left that it's too petty of a thing. I mean, when Nixon was on the verge of getting ousted because he was lying about covering up much larger scandals, and that was sort of the standard that we thought of. And I feel like what they're doing with the word violence now is they're making it so that the word violence means nothing. They did this with sexual assault, with the word rape. And it's one of these things where rape used to be the most feared word in the English language, pretty much, is that there's nothing worse than that. And then during the whole Me Too thing, it became into all these women, it was dawning on them that some abuse had happened a decade and a half ago. And now, because everyone else was talking about it, now they're talking about it. And it started to feel like, well, wait a minute, is that what it was? Is that the definition of rape as we've always seen it? And all that did was serve to cheapen the word. So now they're just going to cheapen the word violence. And so when they create that level of confusion, it will create more violence, because that is giving the green light to people to commit violence, because now they can say, hey, that's just a construct. It wasn't really violence. And then now we're confused. We all know what violence is. Violence is when you harm someone physically. Like, that's what it is. So this is not rocket science, but he doesn't want that to be the case, because that's too clear. The Democrats like chaos, and they thrive on chaos, and they want to make us spend a lot of time reacting to this stuff, because then we don't get to be proactive and offensive with our agenda. And Trump loves to be an offense, which is why he's been the best Republican of my lifetime. But let me give you some more example of this. This is Jamal Bowman. We got this earlier. This is the guy who pulled the fire alarm that we broke. Breitbart News broke this story to get out of a vote somehow. So, which is violence, in my opinion. I mean, I think that's a violent construct, pulling the fire alarm. Hey, look, if we're going to move the definition, I'm putting that in the violence category. Here he is on CNN. Check this out. This is a congressman.
You can't be calm about this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease...
I'm white, I can't comment.
Listen to what I'm saying. The reason why heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly every day.
This is a former congressman, I should say. So it would be funny if my wife, if she was at the doctor's office and she had diagnosed, if she had a black patient, which of course she's many, if she diagnosed a black patient and said that, well, actually the real diagnosis here is that your ancestors were called the N-word and that's why you have cancer. What is the point he's trying to make? It doesn't help black people to say that you were victimized 100 years ago and thus you have that's why your health is bad now. I mean, it's not really the point. The point is that what can you do proactively to help yourself? Is there more you can learn about genetic history? Is there more you can learn about lifestyle to try to avoid some of these epidemics that are happening on a health front? I don't know what it really accomplishes to give just some sort of an excuse or explanation that blames Whitey. So this is what I think about with some of these people is they wake up in the morning and they look for reasons to talk about racism. They look for reasons to claim the victim card. They look for reasons to try to shame other people and to try to intimidate them into responding. Because admit it, if you were in the room with this guy, you wouldn't be thrilled to respond. You kind of want to leave, right? It's just like you're saying that because some people called your ancestors racist 100 years ago. That's what we're supposed to do with that information. There's a lot of health problems in the black community, and most of us would like to help because we're not calling you the N-word anymore. No one does that anymore. Pretty much, there's like 6 people, and no one likes those guys, and everyone else doesn't do that. So, can we work on the problems to fix them? So, and hopefully, you guys can move on to some degree. Like, not completely, you don't have to move on completely, but move on enough so you can get your health in order. I want to do it one more time. It's such an amazing clip.
You can't be calm about this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease...
I'm white, I can't comment.
Listen to what I'm saying. The reason why heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly every day. If
you can't prove he's wrong. You can't prove he's wrong. That's part of the fun, right, of these arguments. Let me go back to the Supreme Court for a little bit. Trump thanked the Supreme Court today. He gave a epic press conference. I got some highlights. It's not going to be enough. He's just been on a unbelievable run of just bangers whenever he speaks to the press. We got some. So here's him thanking the Supreme Court.
So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few words, but there's really, she could talk as long as she wants because this is a very important decision. This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant. It's a giant. And they should be very proud, and our country should be very proud of the Supreme Court today. And with
Yeah, it feels good. And a lot of credit to Donald Trump and actually the rest of the Republicans, I mean, for getting the Supreme Court in order the way it is. And it's imperfect, particularly the Barrett pick, but good enough in this case. And what Trump is going through that laundry list, all these injunctions, all these actions that were taken by the courts to shut down elements of his agenda in breaking the law. I go through a ton of them, but you can't keep up. Like, you can't keep up. I go through a huge list of all of these elements of Trump's agenda that have been blocked, and all of those need to be revisited now. And that's so great. It's so great. Such great news. And it's a great day to be an American. It really is really cool. This is why they're calling him Daddy Trump. I saw this clip. This was a day or two ago, but because of the nature of the book launch and some of the busy stuff we were doing, I did not get a chance to play it. But I played for you Mark Rutte. It's got to be Rutte, right? Not Root. Who called Trump Daddy at NATO. And this was I think it was a Sky News reporter asked him about it. And I've been sitting on this. I've got to play this for you all. I'll give you some commentary. Check this out.
Thank you. Deborah Hayes from Sky News. Hello. The language that you have used when talking to Donald Trump has been notable because of its flattery. Today you called him Daddy. You sent a text message to him that was gushing with praise. Is this the way that you feel you have to act when doing business with the US president, through flattery and praise? Isn't it a bit demeaning, and doesn't it make you look weak?
Isn't that an unbelievable question, that the whole implication wasn't that there was something serious behind it? Well, what do you mean by that? Is there something here that we need to understand, that because we haven't heard a lot of presidents called daddy before? I mean, it's definitely a particular usage of words that we hadn't heard. And, you know, NATO and Trump have not gotten along. Remember when NATO's only paying 2% and Trump was calling all you guys out, and now all of a sudden you guys are showing him a lot of respect? It's kind of odd. I mean, we were told that Joe Biden was the guy who was the leader in the world stage, and now everyone thinks he's a big joke, and now all of a sudden you guys are looking up to Trump. That's not the way she phrases it. She phrases it as if it's an accusation. Check this out again. She's accusing him of doing something improper.
Today you called him Daddy. You sent a text message to him that was gushing with praise. Is this the way that you feel you have to act when doing business with the US president, through flattery and praise? Isn't it a bit demeaning, and doesn't it make you look weak?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a bit of a question of...
Does it make you look weak? Wow. Okay. Just because Trump is the alpha on the planet. He just won a historic war. He's making the world a safer place. He's bringing peace and prosperity. He's got the economy coming back, energy sector thriving. Trump's dominating. He's on a big run right now. Mark Rutte knows that it would be foolish to be on Trump's bad side now. There's no reason. There's no impetus for it. There's no momentum behind the anti-Trump forces.
Question of taste, but I think he's a good friend. And when he is doing stuff which is forcing us to, for example, when it comes to making more investments. Would you ever think that this would be the result of this summit if he would not have been elected president? Do you really think that 7 or 8 countries who said, yeah, somewhere in the 2030s we might meet the 2%? We've now all decided in the last 4 or 5 months to get to 2%. So doesn't he deserve some praise? And when it comes to Iran, the fact that he took this decisive action, very targeted, to make sure that Iran would not be able to get his hands on a nuclear capability, I think he deserves all the praise.
Yeah, it really is. It's hard not to interrupt, but he just nailed it. If Trump had not been elected, we would be talking to NATO at 2%. Now we're talking about everyone getting to 5%. That makes Mark Rutte's job a lot easier. He's going to be so much more well-funded. He's the NATO Secretary of General that she's talking to. So a guy who, of course, wants NATO to fund itself. So why on earth would he be opposing Trump, who's demanding people pay in more? Doesn't make any sense. He's acting like Mark Rutte's best friend in the world right now is Donald Trump. He also just took a huge headache off the table by, at a minimum, setting back Iran's nuclear program by 3 years. But maybe it's worse. Not to mention all the money, got to be $1 trillion effort by Iran to get where they were. They've never been weaker on the world stage. They have no defense capabilities. They're totally vulnerable for further attacks if necessary. It's all from Donald Trump. Instead of Iran being on the verge of nuclear weapons, and look, I don't know what the verge means. There's all these debates about it, but we know they want them. We know they're hell-bent on pursuing them. And we know if they had them, they would like to use them, if they could, on our allies in Israel, including a lot of Americans would die in that, and on ourselves, if they could. That's what they want. And now they've been set back. And NATO's paying more, and the world's a more peaceful place. I mean, of course, and Mark Rutte knows this. It's so funny when these journalists ask these questions like they're smarter. You think he doesn't think about this stuff? He knows this stuff. You don't have to be an America First MAGA enthusiast to understand that stuff is fundamentally true. And that's what's so remarkable about Trump's policies to this point in his administration, particularly with regards to foreign policy. He is taking just these not even 820 issues, the 97.3 issues. He's taken these issues where people are clearly, when the facts settle out, they're going to be on his side. The approach he took with Iran is perfect. It should be studied. He was unpredictable, but he was firm. He set clear expectations, and when they weren't met, he acted decisively. He did not do things that would deeply divide his coalition, i.e. Breaking any promises like no ground troops. He did not call for anything super time-consuming and perhaps frustrating and perhaps overly complicated like regime change with boots on the ground. He played everything exactly solid, just solid, dependable. I've said this. This is going to age well. He's an anti-chaos agent. And that's what people are understanding now. He's not a pro-chaos agent. He's an anti-chaos agent. People think that all Trump wants is chaos. No, it's the exact opposite. Trump he's trying to get things on an even keel so that he can grow things, he can build things figuratively and literally, and then get to the golf course. That's what he wants to do. Let's see. This is I think a good segue to talk a little bit about the Natasha Bertrand situation here that we got going with the reporting that Israel's nuclear capabilities weren't exactly wiped out. This has been a big topic of conversation over the last few days, and I have not delved into it too much because I saw the byline in CNN, Natasha Bertrand reporting it, and I figured that this was just some deep state leaker who is trying to undermine President Trump, and that was really the point of it all. And that's kind of how it's played out. You guys are aware that there has been some disputes from inside the intelligence community at various corners that Trump had overstated the damage done to the Iran nuclear facilities. And the reporter behind the stories was the exact reporter who had championed the hoax that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. She was the reporter on this story. In 2022, I wrote an article where I listed her as the top Hunter Biden laptop denial journalist. This is yours truly wrote this one up where I did a list of all the worst journalists on the Hunter Biden laptop, and I gave her the #1 slot for publishing the now infamous letter from over 50 former intelligence officials declaring the laptop Russian disinformation. To be clear, she didn't declare it. They implied it had all the hallmarks of it, but we know what it was designed to do. It was designed to make it so that the public thought it was Russian disinformation. The article became the centerpiece of the efforts to marginalize and discredit the laptop and the reporting of the New York Post and my good friend Emma Jo Morris. And though the letter suggested that the laptop narrative merely had the hallmarks of disinformation, which I note that means she had zero actual evidence it was Russian or disinformation, the piece reverberated through the media. And now we know it was coordinated by the deep state, especially Tony Blinken. We've learned that since then. And all that was designed to give us more Joe Biden as president. And how'd that go for the country? How'd that go? So one of the biggest liars in America, and she keeps feeling upwards. She's been on the wrong side of every major story that she's ever covered. So, but that one definitely takes the cake, and that she continues to be able to stop people and get their attention with her reporting is just mind blowing. After that, you would like to think in this country you would have to find additional work after that, but I guess not. Remember, it isn't just that Trump has said that, and even Israel has said that these facilities have been obliterated. It's the UN, the IAEA has said this as well. And this is a very important point. First of all, of course, Trump is going to say they're obliterated because he's a cheerleader for this country and he wants those brave men and women who dropped those bombs to be thought of as the heroes that they deserve to be thought of as. Israel does not have incentive to lie because they're not trying to declare victory. They're trying to neutralize a threat. They're not doing just some sort of a PR thing. They're trying to actually eliminate the nuclear threat of Iran. Now, of course, doing that helps their PR. I'm not in denial of that. Don't mishear me. But Benjamin Netanyahu's number one concern as the prime minister of Israel for his for his multiple administrations has been to neutralize the nuclear threat of Iran. That's been his number one priority. And so he doesn't want to declare victory prematurely because this has been his battle. That's been his white whale. So, and Israel's saying, we got him. Like, we hit it. We hit it out of the ballpark. So, and then you have the UN, which is an anti-Israel organization, them declaring, yeah, it's obliterated, it's eviscerated. Why would they do that? So only the American deep state and the CNNs of the world are questioning the narrative at this point, and everyone else is going, yeah, it seemed like a big hit. The CIA director gave us an exclusive yesterday at Breitbart News, smacking down the objections to the successful strike on Iran and the hammering the failed nuclear deal by Obama that got us into this mess. So you can read that at Breitbart News. Boyle had the report working on that late into the night, which was really cool. So we have that going for you if you care for more. Right before I started recording today, President Trump unleashed a blistering truth bomb on the Ayatollah, saying that the U.S. will no longer be lifting devastating sanctions on them. And the crux of it is that they are so angry, hostile, and unhappy. And look at what it has gotten them. A burned out, blown up country with no future, a decimated military, a horrible economy, and death all around them. So he's just going off on Iran because Iran declared victory, by the way, in case you guys missed that. They claim they won, even though they had the bogus performance art attack on the American base that did no damage. So all good stuff. So the president also unleashed some other truth bombs worth noting to you. He informed that Canada, a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% tariff for years on dairy products, has just announced that they are putting a digital services tax on our American technology companies, which is a direct and blatant attack on our country. They're obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussion with us also. Based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada, effective immediately. We will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the United States of America within the next 7-day period. And of course, thank you for your attention to this matter. Trump's signature phrase. It's good. Take him out. Take out the bad guys. Take out the trash, President Trump. Defend American business. This is America first. We have a president who defends this country against the Canuck cucks. How about that? Anyone ever used that before? I could probably workshop that a little better. Taking on Iran, taking on Canada, bringing NATO to heel. Now he is going to stay in Washington this week, which is very rare for Trump. He likes to go to his properties over the weekend, but he'll be here working on the big, beautiful bill, the one big, beautiful bill. I've got some updates for you on the one big, beautiful bill. Bradley J., our top reporter on the issue, sent me some deets before the broadcast today, noting that it appears to be coming together with some major hangups are closer to being resolved. Medicaid, despite the panicking yesterday's guidance from the Senate parliamentarian. So those of you who are following this, the Senate parliamentarian had some procedural objections to how the bill, what was in the bill and whether or not certain things that were in it can fit in a budget reconciliation. And a lot of it had to do with Medicaid. Full details at Breitbart.com for that. But basically, Bradley sums it up as Senate could either find a provider tax fix or adopt less drastic approach on Medicaid cuts, but we'll have to find something that works within the confines of what you can do in a budget reconciliation package. This is something that could be a blessing in disguise because we all like the idea of reforming entitlements, but if we run the risk of taking away Medicaid for rural Trump voters who qualify for it legitimately and have needed it and have been dependent on it, then that could be some massive political blow to Trump's coalition, which is thin. Like we've got the majority, the Democrats are weak, we got the momentum, we got the talking points, but in terms of voting margins, it's still very thin and we can't really mess around with it. Next big matter of conversation, SALT, that's the state and local tax deduction. A deal appears to have been reached, but not every Republican is on board yet. The report details is a $40,000 SALT cap for 5 years. It's going to snap back to a $10,000 cap, and I think that doubles for couples. So basically, that is a tax break for blue states. It is a thing that sort of rewards blue states for various levels of incompetence. Blue state Republicans essentially get rewarded here because they like it to counteract the damage the blue state governors are doing in those states. So it could benefit me. I don't know if I qualify, but I hope I do because I would like that. That'd be nice. Like $80,000 write-off, I think is how it would work. That'd be good. But the overall, it's vote shopping. It is. And is it necessary to get the bill across? Sure. Yes. But as an economic conservative, you can't really get behind something like this. But as a pragmatist who wants to see Trump win and see the bill pass, then I understand it. So that's where we're at right there. The parliamentarian axed key savings and the spending hawks aren't going to like it, Bradley writes for us. And that could come from any sort of the various hawkish coalitions. We love our hawks. We love people who want to keep things above board and affordable and cut the waste. But also, as I've been warning, there wasn't going to be that much of that in this budget reconciliation. A lot of that is going to be saved for the appropriation stuff that we're going to have as we debate throughout the summer on the various appropriation bills coming out of all the various committees. So this is another one where we could get saved from ourselves because I want to be more hawkish on spending. We need to. We're a debtor society. I don't like it. We need to reset that. But that's something we're gonna have to chip away at, and we're not going to be able to build Rome in a day on that front. The parliamentarian axed a few more things from overnight, including gun silencers and religious carve-outs from the increase in the college endowment tax. And I understand why, maybe, because I don't necessarily understand why those would be in a budget reconciliation. And that's the point, is that you have to look at what's practical and then what's principled. So the Senate, we're looking to get towards a consensus here, or more likely, based off of how these things go, we're going to wait for them to burn out, total exhaustion. Trump obviously wants this thing to go through, but there really does seem to be a number of pet issues for various people that some of them are quite legitimate, and we'll see how many of them stick. And Trump will be negotiating all weekend long on the big, beautiful bill. So he is getting to work my friends. It is a unbelievable run he's on, and he just continues to try to line stuff up and knock them down. And that's exactly the approach that we need to have if we want to have a thriving country. And that's the country we deserve. That's the vital America that Joe Biden could not handle. The sleepy Joe Biden, as we called him, even though I don't think he was that sleepy, but he was certainly kind of slurry. He was slurry Joe Biden. I was thinking about the cognitive decline narrative and how we just the myth that there was a cover up. Do you remember when during the Let's Go Brandon stuff, which was at the very beginning of his administration, where we started the one reporter misheard F Joe Biden as let's go Brandon. So we all started saying, let's go Brandon. And then someone at a Biden rally called out, let's go Brandon. Missy, you got to get me this clip. I got to play this. We could do this again next week. I got to play this, but it's we played, a guy yelled out, let's go Brandon. And Joe Biden goes, let's go Brandon. I agree. And he didn't understand at that moment that the guy was saying a code. He was saying a slang for F Joe Biden, F as in F-U-C-K, Joe Biden. And he's been, let's go Brandon, I agree. Something that's so often repeated in the Marlow household. We get so many spins on that one. And just the thought that you could have watched that and not known for sure this guy has lost it mentally. There's absolutely no cover up. Is just a CYA measure and a measure to sell books by Jake Tapper, which might have worked okay. He sold some books. All right. What else do I want to bring up? I guess, did I miss the AOC is not a Bronx girl news cycle? I think I did miss it. That's kind of sad. I won't dwell on it too much, but a state representative from New York pointed out that AOC, who claims to be from the Bronx, was from a place called Yorktown, which is apparently a kind of upper class suburb. So it's a big deal in the sense that her integrity, her authenticity is a big part of her appeal. So I think the fact that she is, if there's chinks in that armor, then that could be helpful for us overall. Because I want her out there. I want her a character, but she's one of the few charismatic Democrats they have, one of the few just fundamentally compelling people in their movement. And so we don't want her to get too powerful. So I like that, knocking her down a peg. That seems like a good one. Gavin Newsom suing Fox for $787 million, claiming that the network defamed him over LA riots, and saying that the Jesse Waters show edited a video of him. We're going to fight fire with fire in the media game. Trump has had so many successful lawsuits against the fake news, and I've cheered all those on. And the Dominion voting machines, et cetera, have sued Fox, and they've sued Newsmax and other places, and they've made money on those places. And so that's going to continue. But Newsom definitely is understanding that the path forward for him to get a Democrat nomination is not podcasting with conservatives. For him to get the nomination for Democrat Party is to be on offense and to be the number one offensive weapon against Trump. And he's tried to have his cake and eat it too, to some degree, but I think he's really going to lean heavily into what does the most damage to Trump and his movement. And that's what we're seeing here. That's what this is about. It is him trying to get on offense on behalf of the left, finding a way to do it. So that is what's happening, clearly. The one I want your responses, aloha@alexmarlow.com, if you want to send me an email on this. Texas Governor Greg Abbott signing a bill mandating 10 commandments in classrooms. Really interesting stuff, mandating this display of 10 commandments in all public school classrooms beginning in September. I, of course, like it. I am curious, though, what your explanation is, because I was thinking my explanation isn't all that sophisticated. I just find that even from a religiously agnostic perspective, the 10 Commandments, if we all lived by it, society would be better. And there were various sects and various religions that believe in the 10 Commandments. So it's not a state-sponsored religion. So if that is the imperative from the state of Texas and their voters and their elected leadership, I can get behind it. I think it's legitimate. And I think the world could use a lot more 10 Commandments. I think that if everyone lived by the 10 Commandments, we'd be a lot better place than where we are now. I think it solves a lot of problems in your life if you can just abide by the 10 Commandments. So I'm into it, but I want to hear what your explanation is. So share with me why you think this is a good idea, or maybe I'm missing something and maybe it's not a good idea. But I feel compelled to bring that up. Another offensive thing from a governor who might consider running for president, certainly move on to a cabinet post maybe in the next Republican administration. So that's on that is on the horizon. Last one I'll bring up. You have a little bit of homework on this one. Google is testing preferred sources in their search. So this is a place where you can start choosing your news site where you get your news. And I'm wondering if this is sort of a retort to AI where Google is going to, their search engine is going to suffer from their AI is not as sophisticated as some of the other AIs out there. I'm not saying they can't catch up. They're one of the most powerful companies on earth. But as of now, Google is not keeping up with some of the big AI giants. And maybe one of the ways to push back is to let you choose the news that you see more than having it being force-fed to you. This could help a website like Breitbart, where we've been banned by Google. I wrote about this extensively in Breaking the News, my first book, with data, with charts showing how Google turned off our traffic right before the 2020 election. And that was not a coincidence. It was clearly designed to try to make sure that Trump lost, and they've kept it that way. So we get almost none of our traffic from Google. And now you can follow a couple of steps, which we lay out, and you can go to Breitbart.com/tech. It's on the tech page. It's also on our front page too, but even if you're catching up on the show, go to our tech page, you can see it, and you get these preferred sources where you can select trusted news outlets like Breitbart News to see more of our content in their top stories, and that's awesome. So we love that. So I encourage you to go over there, a good way to support us. But the best way to support me right now, picking up Breaking the Law, picking up a couple extra copies for friends and family members. Let's get this thing topping some charts here and get some momentum behind it so I can take this message on the road and we can stay in that war footing, fighting for this republic against the lawfare superstructure and the institutional left in general. That's it. Thanks for a great week. Thanks to Misty. Thanks to all of you for telling 10,000 friends and family members about the new book, subscribing, 5-star reviews. All that's helpful. Leaving comments. I read them all. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you next week.